Hi everyone, really excited to walk you through how to turn a neuropsych evaluation into an accommodation plan in just a couple simple steps. So really our goal here is to take this really time-consuming process of creating an accommodation plan from scratch and make it a little easier so that you're working off of something rather than starting from zero. And there's a lot of info in these neuropsych evaluations. Often they're many pages long, and so our goal is to save you time and do all that data entry for you so that we're pulling in that important information. And that way you can do the important work of analyzing and interpreting and, using that judgment to understand how to support that student in your school context and not having to just type out all these things, which can take hours. So excited to show you how this all works. So if you're not familiar with August, I wanted to just start by showing you the student card. So as opposed to, having different Google Drive folders, maybe, you have a Google Drive folder for all the neuropsych evals and then a separate Google Drive folder for all the accommodation plans. And then you have a separate Google Sheet with all the accommodations. In August, we have everything just in one place. And so I'll pull up a student card, and I always, want to say the disclaimer that these are not real students. These are not real neuropsych evaluations. We don't use, these are confidential documents. So just wanted to flag these are, this is not real student data. This is just sample data that we use. And so here's the student card. And so we pull all this information from your student information system. And so you can see, all documents. So in this case, that neuropsych eval, any plans, accommodations, you can see that all right from this centralized student record. So it just makes it easy, if you get a parent call, to see everything in one place. So I just wanted to open this up real quick, just so you can see what it looks like, sample document. These are longer documents. They typically have, referral reasons, some background context. They'll have information for any tests that were administered as part of the evaluation, with the scores for that student. So you'll see all that there. And then typically at the end, there's some recommendations for school-based accommodations. So, extended time, things like that. And so just wanted to highlight that because you'll see that come into play a little bit later. So now that we've seen what that looks like, I'm going to X out of there. And then we'll go ahead and create a new plan for Mia. So I'll click new plan. And then you always have the option to create from scratch if you're wanting to just start from a blank template. But in this case, I want to generate with AI. So I'm going to click on Mia. And then in this case, I have a couple different plan templates, but for this situation, I want to use an accommodation plan. And then you can either just drag and drop documents from your desktop. Maybe a parent, just emailed you that neuropsych eval, but you can always just choose from the ones that the student has on file. So in this case, just one. So I'm going to check that. And then you can always add, any context that might be helpful as the AI is generating this plan. So things like for the goals section, create goals for any test results where Mia scored below average. We would like to accomplish these goals by June 1st, 2027. So just giving a little extra guidance of what I want it to do. So I'm going to hit generate. And then basically what it's doing is it's analyzing that neuropsych evaluation, pulling out the important data, and then mapping that to the template that I've built. So I have an accommodation plan template that has a couple different fields. So you'll see here it automatically populated Mia's strengths from the evaluation, her areas for improvement, any learning preferences, and then it automatically took those accommodations that we saw listed at the end of the neuropsych evaluation and put them in here automatically, which is really nice. I don't have to go add those in manually. And then it also automatically created goals for each of those test results where she scored below average. So it looks like improving handwritten essay composition was one, visual motor integration skills. And so you can see when I toggle these down, it actually shows me based on the date of that neuropsych eval that it's then tracking, basically, what does that trend line look like of how do we get Mia to 90 on June 1st? And so this allows me to sort of throughout the school year track her progress, see how she's doing, and make sure that she's reaching her goals. And so just to show you what this looks like real quick, we'll take this as an example. So the visual motor integration skills. I'm going to log a data point just to show you how this works. So let's say right now we're at 82. Let's pretend it's maybe November, and now we're at 85, which would be great. And then I'll just see seeing improvement on visual motor integration skills. You can add whatever little note you want. And then let's pretend like this is in November, November 19th. Perfect. So then I'll hit OK, and you'll see that it tracks that progress. And so that blue line is how Mia's actually doing. And so it'll show me here, okay, Mia's on track. That's great. But it also flags if Mia's maybe behind, a little behind on achieving that goal. So let me show you on this goal just so you can see what that looks like. So I'm going to click into here. Okay, so right now she's at 78 and we're wanting to get to 90. So just for the sake of this example, I'm going to say that maybe Mia's at only 79 on, let's call it December 1st. So when I track that, it'll show me that blue line is where Mia is, and it'll show me that that's actually a little behind pace. So on December 1, we're not really on track to meet that goal by June 1st. So that's how I know, maybe we need to course correct a little bit. There's something we need to be doing differently to make sure that Mia achieves that goal. So yeah, that's, our goal is always to just make life easier, make it quicker to create these accommodation plans in a way that allows you to, be able to use them throughout the year. So they're not just sort of sitting on a shelf, but they're actually these, living things that, you can track progress against. And then, when you're meeting with teachers or parents, you can pull this up and have this as a reference, for how that student's doing. So I hope this is helpful. Always excited to share, the different ways in which our schools are using this functionality to support their students. So with that, have a wonderful day.